have one last presentation, and then we will conclude the seminar webinar today. And then I want to let everybody know when it's over, we will be doing a happy hour right back here, right behind this room. So we'll have appetizers and cocktails for everybody. You'll be able to talk to the manufacturers, ask more questions. So the last presenter, I don't even need a card to read up Mike Smith. Mike Smith and I have been buddies for going on 30 plus years. When he first started out working at the Habersham Metal Company, hollow metal plant for security door frames. Mike today is president and CEO, I believe, of SteelCell North America. He runs pretty much their sales and marketing, and he works hand in hand with Doug Bruns, who runs their field and operations, and Brock, who handles their design assistant pricing. So unless you need me to say something else, Mike, you're up.
Thanks. Clicker. Nope, thank you. Thanks. Sorry about that. All right, as Joe said, I'm Mike Smith, President and CEO of SteelCell and Vital Space, which I'll introduce that. We did introduce that at the last training seminar that we held down at our plant, Georgia. SteelCell is the largest manufacturer of prefabricated modular cells in the detention market, in the detention industry. I guess in the world, because the U.S. has the, we incarcerate more per capita than any other country. Majority of our projects are domestic, but we do some in South America and the Caribbean. To date, over 26,000 cells in the field, 315 different projects. But here's the thing I'll highlight about that. An Indiana cell and a Georgia cell and a Florida cell and a Maine cell, they all have some things in common, but none of them are just alike. And then as we go around the states, we have a sheriff and county that owns a facility, or we have a state that owns a facility, and there are vastly different things that go in these, and things that lead to the design of these sleeping rooms or cells. So every job's custom. So we've had a lot of experience working with the architectural groups in this room, and bringing that vision into a product you can kick, touch, and feel and deliver to a job site. And you saw that yesterday at the Westville facility. Westville, for us, Joe, I got to thinking about this. You should have ordered a few more cells, and we could have delivered 1,856 cells to match when Poly was formed. But 1,833 cells, 8 buildings. Working with this team was great. It was an early approval. Everybody's very mindful of the economic conditions and supply chain markets. And it really was, let's put our heads together, let's make the calls, let's stick with our calls. And this project will be very successful if we can get all those cells built before we start needing them on the job site. So 1,833 cells were done, inventoried in a bonded warehouse on our facility and ready for delivery. And you're seeing them still deliver today. I think the last production day of those cells was at the very beginning of the year or the end of last year. So it's about how far we could really work ahead. I think some of the benefits, or we bring to bear to the, especially to a design assist team, what we've seen over 315 different projects. And we've seen, a lot from the architectural group here and others. It is completely customizable. My sales team, my manufacturing team hates for me to say this, but if you want it soft, pink, and fluffy, we can do it for you. We'll talk about what you might not like if we actually deliver that, and what it might cost to make it soft, pink, and fluffy. But we kind of have the can-do. It's doable. We'll try to ask the questions: is it practical, and can you afford what you're asking us to do? Key thing with modular, and we're seeing this across a lot of construction genres, is saving time. And actually, we're a compilation of a lot of things you've seen today. Input for, better office conditions for the people that work in facilities, the people that have to stay in these facilities for a short time and then go home, and then addressing, how can we build these faster? How can we demand less from an already pressed for availability construction market? So prefabrication is something we're seeing a lot in Europe. We're starting to adopt it across the board hear much more in the States, and the more complex, I guess, sometimes the more benefit you get. So the justice industry's adopted it well over the last 20 years, and it's hard to see any large project now that doesn't use some form of prefabrication. So we're real excited about that. We're able right now to say that we're 100% domestic, and obviously with U.S. taxpayer dollars, that is something that the taxpayers want us to do, is be domestic. It's also very, although there's always some tariff influence, we've not really been affected at all by the way we manage the large volume by tariffs. All right, the benefit, the why. The why to do prefabrication is designated by this red line. We're going to take that time off the months of the job. We're going to do some things up front. And you heard the story. I don't need to make the story. While they were digging in the ground at Westville, we were making cells. Now, if this had been done traditionally, it's a sequential thing. At some point, you got some parallel things that can be done, but really, you can't do anything until they're through with the foundations. Well, here we had 1,833 cells built, vetted, inspected, and ready to go. So there isn't a better case of modular and prefabrication than Westville, Indiana. And we're very excited to have been selected for that team. Now, the key thing about this team is what I said, is digging in early and talking about things like, you know, how much, excuse me, let me go back up. How much airflow needs to go through that HVAC vent? How high is the intercom off the ground? What is the thickness and location of the window? So these things, when you have a good forward-thinking DEC, which is, there aren't that many that do what Poly does, we're able to jump ahead of these things and really deliver and take full benefit of the modular or prefabricated approach. So, in going into this, you know, you're buying a product that we need to keep the job site safe for everybody involved, whether that is the inmate, whether that's the staff, and also the public. So quality control is huge. We use very high-end products. We use very high-end coating. There are myriad, I'm not going to read a slide, you can read yourself, but ASTM, state modular building codes, sound ratings. You heard Dr. Dwinger talk about sound. And then, you know, just general practice. We don't want to create spaces where inmates can hide things, contraband, weapons. So all these things go into the mix. If you're contemplating a project, I would highly suggest, you know, schedule a trip. We'll come down, we'll bring the whole detention team down. You can really kick the tires on the cells. There's always a project going somewhere. We manufacture between 80 and 90 a week. So you get to see a pretty wide variety of these prefabricated cells. Now, some things you may say, that's not what I want, but over there I like that, or I like somewhere in between. Could you give me a mix of that versus this? It's a little bit easier for some people to see it in the flesh, as they say, than look at a drawing. 3D models are great, but there's nothing like test driving the car. So please feel free to reach out, let us know. Sorry, having some technical difficulties. Along with our cell production, we have expanded over the years, and even today we have refurbishment, repair services. You know, there's not a lot of repair on our cells, but some of our competitors, and here's an example, not a very old project, not using the highest end materials, not using the highest end coatings, and then what we can do. So, you know, we were talking at lunch with a group, and you still have to operate your old facility while your new one's coming online. So between the manufacturers here, our services combined with Poly services, we can keep you going till you can afford and get into the new building. We also do locks. Majority of the lock sales we do are replacement locks for, you know, a lot of the old vendors that have been out there for a long time. So we're happy to help you with that. And now I want to introduce Vital Space a little bit. So Vital Space is, we have been growing. We've been growing into other areas, capitalizing on what SteelCell does well. And last fall, around Thanksgiving, we brought on an acquisition called Portable Solutions Group. We also created and have started work on CareFirm, and I want to talk about those here. Those have the most direct applicability to this group, I think. So Portable Solutions Group is, think of the products they make as construction management tools. They're gate entries, they are manpower access entries, ground located offices, the things that you have to do when you first start digging dirt to activate people on site and give them good workspace, place to keep records. One of the key things that we're seeing, and again, we're seeing some input and some drivers coming from the data center market. Now, here's a tool that you can help compete with the data center market. Why do the data center markets get all of our workers? Well, they're starting to address things. This is our PSG respect room, not a restroom, respect room, because some contractors respect their employees and contractors working on the job enough to not give them a porta potty. Everybody in here knows what a porta potty is, right? Hopefully you haven't had to really spend a lot of time in one. Wouldn't it be better to go to a restroom that's air conditioned, has running water, and flushable toilets? Okay, guys, construction guys, the data center builders see this. The data center builders are writing these into upfront specifications. They're attracting the people you need on these projects because they have better facilities. We are seeing, I don't even know how you call it. It's not an influx, it's an overload of get me these restrooms because these big data center projects are competing for electricians and other skilled trades. So I highly recommend that you look holistically at how do we attract labor. Yeah, you got to pay them good. Yeah, you got to have a good plan. But look, if they've got choices, one job site over the other, easy work, like TJ's laying out with some of the new technology, decent places to, it's their office for a while. You might want to consider that. Be happy to talk to you about it later. Ground located offices. A lot of times construction sites need, you got to activate crews. They need a place to store plans, meet. That's one of our production operations as well in Georgia. And then CareFirm, that matches a little bit of the content and purpose of this seminar, is really, all I really need to say is listen to Dr. DeWinger. There is a benefit. Rooms aren't going to heal people. Rooms aren't going to solve problems, but we can be creative and we can listen with practitioners and say, let's create the most conducive space. So I'll go back to one of Dr. DeWinger's questions. Would you rather be in a cinder block, dark, smelly, bar-graded front room, or something like you see on the screen now? This is our CareFirm product. This is as secure as the cells that you're normally used to seeing, the ones you saw on the Westville job site, but textures, colors, and layout, floor layout, are different. And their input from practitioners that's saying you need to address this. Lighting control built in here. Piping in sounds built in here. Separation of that restroom area and that sleeping and studying area, are things that we've heard and developed. We have multiple projects going. There is a live demo outside. It's not actually under the tent, which we call it, but please take a look. There are different wall types in there. There's the traditional steel wall that we use, and then there's a laminated sheetrock that we use for maybe that step-up program. A little bit lighter, a little bit more. I'm not going to use the word normal. I don't think there's anything normal about being incarcerated, whether it's in one of these or a standard cell. So I don't want to use the word normal, but it's something a little less harsh and stark. And look, I think our staff would rather work in a facility that had some rooms like this, if not all rooms like this. So take a look at that. Happy to answer questions on that as you walk through it. We believe, as Joe's theme for this and you know, in the video that we watched today, you know, we hear from a lot of different people. 65% of the people in county facilities have a diagnosable mental health. It does reduce down a little bit when you get into the state level, somewhere in the 40 to 45 range. These are numbers I hear over and over. I'm not the expert on that. There are some here. So we're treating them. We're housing them. Do we even call them inmates? Are they patients? You know, we got to rethink a little bit what we're doing. These are people that will get out. And are we doing anything to get them ready to get out? I mean, I know we've got to punish them for committing the crime, but are we preparing them to re-enter society? And are they better off going through our facilities? So that's a question we pose to ourselves. We're very committed to listening to the market, to listening to the experts, and providing spaces that fit programs. I can't tell you the program. That's not my area of expertise. But if you have a program and you're looking for a space, then we have a product line that fits there well, and it's still working with the same team. I kidded with Joe a little bit as we get into this. Maybe he needs a division that's not Polygel Building Company, it's Polygel Healthcare Company, because we kind of are getting into healthcare. We're forced into it in the justice world. Our guiding principles here: well-being of the patients. Don't see the word inmate in here. Patients and the staff. We were talking on the construction side about how do we retain or get employees. Well, you people that operate facilities or are responsible for facilities that get operated, you know you have that problem in spades. So how can we make it a better office to go to every day? Dr. DeWinger talked about that as well. Reducing anxiety, you know, of the patient and practitioners. Dr. DeWinger addressed that. Natural light, ambient light, you've heard that over and over. Therapeutic. Some people like, you know, some people's response is to be with a crowd of friends. Some people's response, like mine was to Dr. DeWinger's thing, is go sleep, go hide somewhere if I get under stress. We've got to address all those things so we can work with you to create these spaces and still do the modular prefab approach. And I think the last thing, I don't remember who said this, but it stuck with me, always will. This is home for people for a little while. As bad as it is, or as good as we can make it, it is home for a little while. And they're going to get released. So what can we do with them? Let's do it the best we can. Some of the specific requests we get for patient rooms, and they may be beyond this, but we still need security. You know, we still need to be able to have some control, and we need to create things that look soft, but that are highly durable. So, you know, lighting control, a lot of things we've talked about. So these are just some of the inputs, and when you're working with your design team and then your design assist team, there's gives and takes on all these. We can create varying textures, but textures that absorb sound also absorb odor and liquid. So where do you put them? How do you use that? So it's a process, but you can actually now have legitimate conversations about these items when you're planning your facility. You have a group of manufacturers and design professionals, practitioners involved, and manufacturers that are willing to, you know, give you options here. I don't think anybody has the magic formula, but you put all the options on the table and you see what really is needed for your particular situation. And in everything, you know, I think everybody in our industry gets a little bit of a lock them up and throw away the key. The public sometimes thinks lock them up and throw away the key. Well, I'm challenging myself, my team, and all of you guys and ladies, you know, blend a little compassion in there. We want to keep staff there. We want to retain staff. You know, an experienced staff member is going to help with what we're trying to do with the patients that are in there. So if we can create a good workspace for them and retain them, it's better. It's nice to have the first year graduate student, but you know, if you're getting the first year graduate student until they find somewhere better to work, it's constant turnover. So let's try to do something to keep them there. Give them good space. As I said, the demo units are out there, and I'm the last thing between you and happy hour. But I would like to talk with Joe about this, and I would like to ask if any of the other presenters are in the room still. Come on up and just see if we have any general questions. A lot of times we walk away with a question. The questions that have been asked here have been very good today, and we don't really want to overlook everybody hearing an answer. So if any of the presenters are here and we just want to open up quick, if not, they can all come take a bow because they did a lot better job than I did. So thank you. Demo units outside, and happy to see everybody. All right, nobody took the bait, so unless you have a question for me or Joe, I guess we'll go. But any questions?
Still on the mic here?
Yes, sir. Okay, that's the question that I get asked all the time. What's the typical cost of a car? Exactly. So you're.
Jared knows that.
Yeah, so Westville is unique in some aspects. There's cable TV routed to each bunk. Don't know if your state wants that. A lot of counties don't. Some have showers and cells, some don't. And I hate to qualify my answer, but I need to qualify the answer. There are a myriad of options on the toilet. There are a myriad of options on, do you want plastic furniture, as we've seen in some of the pictures, or steel. How much glazing is in there, and actually what the size is. We do single person, 2-person, in the Caribbean 3-person for some reason. That's their operational thing. We don't see that in the U.S. 4-person, 6 and 8. But to say what is typical of what you saw at Westville, in the low $30,000 range.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Mike, quick question. Obviously, the state of Indiana chose steel for this. Can you share the process that occurred with the state of Indiana in that decision making and how they got to be where they are? And then we have a number of state people that are with us who are, I'm sure, considering projects of size. Can you talk a little bit to them?
Well, I think first off, I want to say I think the state of Indiana did a good process, and they didn't invite me in the room to help decide whether to use my product or not. But the typical decision factors are going to be weight, which has a direct effect on foundations, and especially if you're considering vertical, you will be talking SteelCell. You will be talking that type of product. To give you an example, a SteelCell, as you saw on Westville job site, probably weighs about 4,800 to maybe 5,000 pounds if it has a shower. Same thing in concrete or masonry is in the 30,000 pound range. So stack it high, and then you got to go deep, deep, deep with foundations for things that heavy. Second thing is the durability of the surface. I mentioned the ASTM testing, but I'll give you a little, a quick little what's going on with ASTM testing. It's a series of impact tests alternating between blunt and sharp objects. You don't issue inmates or patients blunt and sharp objects, but somehow they find tools. So how long does that wall, that assembly, that window, that door last under attack? There are grades 1 through 4. Grade 1, 60 minutes to grade 4, which is 15 minutes. That's supposed to simulate a person attacking it for 8 hours. So if you think about a person swinging a sledgehammer pickaxe, what's the most force that they can generate? That's calculated. And then we do that sustained in one area on a wall, for 1,800 blows. Now, back in my day, I probably could have got 5 similar newtons. Today, 1, and then I fall off a lot. So why would you say that many test blows equals 8-hour shift or, 60-minute containment?
Hey, Craig, There's actually a lot longer story as to why this job ended up SteelCell. You have to go back almost 15, 16 years ago to the last state correctional job that was done. 256 cells were added out at Newcastle. They had a chance to go SteelCell. They had a chance to go precast. They picked precast, all right? And the problem with the precaster was it wasn't really a precaster. They were pouring the cells out in the field. Anyway, the job ended up being way behind schedule, disaster. That's when the Department of Corrections said, okay, we've done precast now for the last 20 years at Miami, at Wabash. What do we have new? So Kevin Orm came to our offices. I told him we believed in steel cells already for 15 years here. And then we brought up the steel cell, and Kevin had it taken around to all of his different state prisons so all the wardens could look at it and kick the tires and say yes or no or what. That's eventually how we got to Westville.
But I would say, to continue on my theme a little bit, better performance, better materials, like the coatings that we can put on steel. Sherwin-Williams will offer up to 10-year warranties on the polyurea. I mean, if they offer a 10-year warranty, maybe Sherwin-Williams is listening and they probably think it'll last 50 years, 60 years, 80 years. It's a lifetime coating, but I'll say in the vein of all that, nothing is inmate proof. Run the person out that comes in telling you they've got something inmate proof. It's resistant to a certain level, just like the impact on the walls. You give an inmate a pickaxe, a cutting torch, and a few pry bar tools, they're getting out of your facility. I mean, it's just the way it is. So how you monitor it and how you police it and how long it resists that attack is really what you're judging your performance of materials on. And look, the other thing about cost of precast versus CMU versus SteelCell. Over half the cost of that delivered SteelCell is in the things that I purchase, security equipment, doors, frames, windows, intercoms, locks, glazing, furniture. Half the price is the same in any place. So it's really, can I build the walls faster and more efficiently in the factory than we can lay block, or that you can pour concrete, heavy concrete? And the answer to that's yes. So we're going to be the most cost competitive on larger scale projects, even more so. So you know, unfortunately, back to the original question, what's the cost? Really depends on your options. But in most scenarios of a medium to a large project, we're going to be the most cost competitive product that you can use. Other questions?
All right.
All right, let Joe buy you a drink. Thanks for being here.
Drinks are on Mike Smith, everybody. All right. So you can leave your wallets and purses here. And thank you very much for coming, everybody. People that are on the web, thank you as well. All right. Job well done by the Sanders Group for all the audio visual, by the Pauley Jail people for keeping everything running out here. So thanks, everybody, and let's go have a little good time out there.